and welcome to Community Advocacy. I am Griselle Marino and I work for the Office of Community Advocacy, a division under the Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners, overseeing 8 advisory boards and the Miami-Dade County's Goodwill Ambassador Program. Today we welcome back Black Affairs Program Director Rertha Boone, who will speak to us about last week's State of Black Miami Village Dialogue and last month's Housing Summit, as well as upcoming events for 2020. Thank you so much for being here, Rertha.
Thank you, and thank you, Griselle and La Meca Radio for inviting us back to the show. The State of Black Affairs actually was divided into 3 parts. We covered health, social justice, housing, and economics.
And in regards to health, what were the issues?
Well, a lot of the issues had to deal with mental health in terms of how that impacts the African American community. There are several items that were brought to the forefront, some of which included the status of HIV, which disproportionately affects black residents. It also talked about PTSD. Because of the gun violence, because of the violence happening in basically it's overall community, but in particular those that impact the black community. We also talked about climate gentrification, which a lot of people may not be familiar with, but it's becoming a buzzword. What happens is the Liberty City areas and places of that nature where blacks were traditionally relegated to based on the fact that they were away from the ocean because it was more, more accessible, and also people wanted to live there more, so they were pushed to higher ground. Now, however, due to climate change, that land is becoming a lot more valuable, which means that people who lived in those areas are being sometimes forced out of rental properties, as well as being questioned about ownership and also moved if they cannot prove ownership.
Who's forcing them out, if I may?
Actually, it's developers, it's people who are speculators who are looking at the fact that due to climate change, as you see, anytime the king tide comes in, we have climate change, and we see the seas rising. So we see those properties that were very much desirable earlier are now being threatened by the sea. And so as a result, the inland becomes a lot more valuable. So people are speculating and they want to buy that property, and that's why even though before Liberty City was not a place where you, quote, wanted to live, now the land is becoming a lot more valuable because people see that it's above sea level.
So many of the residents of Liberty City are residents that may at some point be saving to buy the property where they're living, and by them wanting to come over here, they would not be able to purchase that property. Is that what it is?
Well, not necessarily. People who have owned those homes for many, many years, a lot of them, unfortunately, they die out and the kids don't take care of it. They don't pay the taxes and things of that nature. So they're liable to lose them. But then those who do own are now getting bombarded by offers from developers who want to buy the property. And the problem is, unless you want to move out of Miami-Dade County, you can't find comparable housing because of the housing, costs. We're cost burden. So those who rent are particularly, able to not fight off those kinds of things, because if for example, they had a story in the Miami Herald not too long ago about a gentleman who lived in Little Haiti. And for years, he had a room. He was very comfortable. He expected to be there for years. But when the developers came and bought the property, it was residential and rental property, he could no longer afford to move back into Little Haiti.
Oh my God, that's awful.
So that's basically what is happening. And sometimes it does not necessarily have to do with race as more as it does with climate gentrification, where that land is becoming a little more desirable because of the location, and therefore people get priced out and they can no longer afford to rent there.
Like Wynwood.
Yes. And the other part of that is when people are in these desirable locations, the property tax goes up. And even if they've already paid for their property, the tax goes up to such an extent that they can no longer afford to pay the taxes. So they therefore sometimes it results in them losing their homes.
Yeah, I remember back when I was going to high school in the 80s and early 90s, that in the area like 26 and Biscayne, it was very inexpensive. And
exactly.
Now it's totally opposite to that.
Exactly.
In
Yeah.
regards to social justices, what were the issues?
Well, most of the things having to do with social justice had to do with the restoration of felon rights. And what basically happens when we voted on Amendment 4 in the state of Florida, it basically gave those felons the right to vote. However, the legislative body saw fit to put additional requirements on them, so therefore they were not able to pay, if they're not able to pay restitution for some of the things that have happened in their past, and say to it whatever they owe. If they can't pay that, then some of them are being, they won't be able to vote.
Is this legal?
Well, that's one of the things that the courts are challenging. Fortunately for us, our state attorney as well as the public defender are sticking up for those felons. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, not even a week ago, John Legend was in town. And what he did is he's very much a proponent of restoration of felons' rights and voting rights. And there were a number of them in court that day who got their voting rights restored as a result of our state attorney's office as well as the public defender's office sticking up for them and saying they've paid the price. This could be something that they did when they're youth. They're now 50, 60 years old and have not been able to vote. So therefore, with that in mind, they were able to restore their rights, and so they have acknowledged that they are able to vote.
Yeah, I thought by the fact that we voted for it and it passed, that was a done deal, but now I hear it about...
You would think not. You would think so, but no, that's not the case, unfortunately.
And in regards to gun violence, what type of discussion took place?
Well, basically, the chairwoman has an initiative. It's a gun violence initiative, and we do have a board member, Rodney Jacobs Jr., who sits on that panel. What they're trying to do is they're trying to attack gun violence across the board using a number of initiatives, and that would include going into where they identify people who are prone to gun violence, and they know who they are. Police basically know who they are, and go in and offer them services and offer them the type of aid and helping them get themselves on their feet and steering away from the gun violence.
And you also spoke about Census 2020.
Absolutely, and how it's important. As a matter of fact, one of our panelists, and that would be Marlene Bastion from FAM, Marlene talked about how we are an immigrant-rich city, and so therefore people are very weary and leery of, the federal government, kind of what they feel like nosing around. And so they're afraid. They're afraid in the political climate that we have that if they are counted, maybe they'd be targeted. So we want to make sure that they know that they have rights and that they are going to be counted, because the count also translates into dollars, federal dollars, for programs that benefit our community. And we want to make sure that everyone is counted.
And I believe that's what happened 10 years ago, that a lot of people were afraid and they just didn't want to be
They
counted.
did not want to be, acknowledged or counted. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other, in that panel, it was immigration, right?
Yes, we talked about immigration. Well, fortunately, TPS has been extended again for Haitians as well as other immigrants to 2021 as opposed to 2020. So that was a positive. And we talked about immigration. We talked about some of the things that are affecting immigration in the country. And as you know, that's a very sensitive issue. But we are looking at it from the standpoint of Miami is one of those bellwether cities where what happens here basically kind of reverberates throughout the country. So we're looking at immigration, how it impacts our census. We're looking at immigration as it impacts those people who live here, who've lived here for a number of years and now we're afraid of being, deported.
You being from the Bahamas and the hurricane just devastating to the islands over there, have you seen a lot of people from the Bahamas come to Miami?
Actually, they are more prone to migrate up on the north end, like Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and places in that area. But we have some, but not that many. Bahamians are pretty resilient. What they would like to do is to rebuild wherever they are. I remember running into a gentleman a few weeks ago at Home Depot, and he said, I lost everything, but I didn't lose my life, and I'm going to rebuild, even if it takes me stick by stick. So that's some of the things that are going on. Plus the National Association of the Bahamas is working with some of the people who've lost everything and lost, maybe not everything, but like they said, thank goodness they haven't lost life or hope.
As you see the news dying down and not covering as much as at the beginning, do you think the needed help is getting to those families that are affected?
We're beginning to see some issues where, as a matter of fact, I was on the phone with a few people a few weeks ago saying that they were beginning to deport people who were deemed illegal in the country, in the Bahamas. I have mixed feelings about that, because if they're born there and they're raised there, unfortunately they may not have been able to become citizens, and some of them are being deported. I think that they're looking at measures on how to determine who's being deported, and those who are being deported are probably people who have been in the country illegally, and those who have been there and have established some type of foothold and are able to basically fend for themselves. I think that on a case-by-case basis, that's what they're looking at. As far as the Bahamians are concerned, they are working with the organizations such as the NAB and such as the Consul General here in Miami, as well as West Palm Beach and places like that, and they're trying to get reestablished.
And I know your board, you have a member, DJ Fabian, that he has been working on that.
Yes, that's the Haitian American Emergency Relief Committee. They were formed right after the earthquake that hit Haiti, 10 years ago. And they've been active. They've been doing a lot of training. In fact, they traveled to Haiti to do some training. And when this hit, the hurricane hit the Bahamas, you have to recognize that there are a number of Haitians who live in the Bahamas. So we activated not just for the Bahamas and for Haitians, but for both, for the whole nation, and pulling together goods and services that they could work with.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us that update. Going back to the state of Black Miami, I know there was a housing summit that took place in October, and the whole issue was brought over to the state of Black Miami. Could you give us an update on that?
Actually, we invited the Executive Director of Public Housing and Community Development, Michael Liu, and they were the ones who pulled together. It was called Housing Summit 2019, closing in on 10,000. You have a number of developers who are participating in the Rental Assistance Development Program, or RAD, who are knocking down these older public housing complexes and putting them up, rebuilding them. One of the things that they were very, very concerned with, and these are residents who live there, where am I going to go? How am I going to live? So what he wanted to assure them is that they will be receiving Section 8 vouchers that will allow them to move, but that they will be able to return once the new buildings are put up, which should be within a year and a half or two at the most. So that's one of the things. We also had John Dixon, who's the director for the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, and he talked about something called a disparity study. The disparity study is something that is done over a number of years, but not every year. But what they do is they have a report card, and that report card is done every 2 years. And essentially, it was not good news. It was showing that the black population here in Miami-Dade counties, opportunities as well as progress had declined as opposed to being upgraded. And so what we're in the process of doing is taking all of that information and determining how we can work best with our county commissioners, public, private, and faith-based organizations to reverse that trend. That's one of the things. We also had Gary Hartfield, who's the director of the Miami-Dade Small Business Department, talking about how small businesses and basically black businesses can be more involved. Eric Knowles from the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce also joined the panel to talk about business opportunities. And T. Willett Fair, who is the president of the Urban League of Greater Miami, he is very instrumental in development of public housing and basically housing that the Urban League owns and manages. He's one of the largest black housing developers in Miami-Dade County. Between these 5 gentlemen, I think that we're looking at putting together a panel, not just to talk about it, but to see how they can work best together to attack housing inaffordability, because as you know, if people are spending like 30 and 40, 50% almost of just their living expenses for housing, and it does not impact all of the other things that they have to do, like medical, food, and those kinds of education, those kinds of levels, that's a critical issue, and that's one of the things that we want to talk about.
Definitely. I also heard Stephen Johnson, who's the chairman of your board, mention that the numbers of county contracts received by black residents, it's inequitable
Yeah,
to
right.
the regular.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're trying to aggressively attack. What are the impediments, and what is it that we can do to help people overcome those impediments? And so that's where Eric Knowles comes in from the Miami-Dade Chamber, working with them. It's unfortunate, and I am a lifelong resident of Miami-Dade County, and I've seen the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that I'm hopeful that institutions such as the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, the Urban League, Small Business, Miami-Dade Chamber will work together to make sure that we address them, and not only just address them, because one of the things I like about my chair, he says 10% talk, 90% action. So we really don't want to talk about what we're going to do, we want to implement what we need to do.
That will be very good. So one of the things that, so this is the fourth State of Black Miami Village Dialogue. So one of the things that's going to happen next is your board is going to meet, and they're going to prepare a report that is going to be presented to the board as for implementation.
Right, we'll present that to the Miami-Dade Board of Commissioners, but more importantly, we want to attack it from the standpoint of these are the recommendations, and work with some of the procedures that and policies and initiatives that they have already started, just making sure that black participation is included, and that we forcefully make sure that these things happen.
Okay, so that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Well, within the next month or so, yeah.
Okay. And looking forward to 2020, I know that every year February is a very busy month for you.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Why is that?
Well, actually, it's going to be critical this year because the theme for Black History Month 2020 is African Americans in the vote. So it's very critical that we engage African Americans in the vote, and as a matter of fact, it's one of the populations that is being really, really heavily recruited this particular election system. So we're going to have a number of events, and I'd love to come back on to talk about Black History Month and some of the activities that we plan, because I think they're going to be very exciting.
Thank you. We'd love to have you then.
Thank you.
So if someone wants to get involved with the board, if someone wants to get information, where should they call? What is there a Facebook page?
We have Facebook. It's a Black Affairs Advisory Board. We also have a website, and it's part of Miami-Dade County's website. So if you check in miamidade.gov and you can type in advocacy, we're one of 8 boards. So you can see our activities, our agenda, those kinds of things, the minutes, and all the things that we do. If anyone is interested in seeing the State of Black Miami, it's a 4-hour transmission, but it was taped and it is available online.
Right, it's available on miamidade.gov/webcasting, and then they could go over there, and it's also going to be on the Black Affairs page.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
great. Anything else you would like to add?
I'd just like to thank you guys for having us and making sure that we keep the community abreast of what's going on in Miami-Dade County, not just for our segment of the constituency, but for all of Miami-Dade County.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming to the show. And up next, Miami-Dade County Goodwill Ambassadors Program Coordinator Yvans Morisseau will be here to speak to us about the many events that our county employees volunteer at, and to tell us more about that beautiful program that he runs. Thanks. So to all of our friends, I want to let you know about a town hall meeting taking place on November 18th after hours. So once you come back from work, it's from 6 to 8. It's at 7701 Southwest 76th Avenue, Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami. So what it is, it's, as you know, HIV is an issue in Miami-Dade County. We have a lot of new cases, more than what we would like to. So there's going to be a town hall meeting talking about how the community can work together to prevent the transmission of HIV, and also what we can do to assist those who are living with HIV. and how can we once and for all end the epidemic of HIV. This is all happening on November 18th at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami. That's located at 7701 Southwest 76th Avenue in Miami. We hope to see you there, and thanks so much for watching Community Advocacy. Hello and welcome back to Community Advocacy. I am Griselle Marino, and here with me is Yvans Morisseau, our Goodwill Ambassadors Program Coordinator, to talk to us more about the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Griselle, and thank you to Lamika Radio for having me here today and to speak a little bit about the Goodwill Ambassadors.
Well, radio is no stranger to you because you host your own radio show, correct?
The way that you see, I like the mic sometimes. It's no stranger.
And I remember before we go into the Goodwill Ambassador program, what makes you uniquely qualified to run this program is your experience, because I remember writing a press release when you won an award, and you have a whole bunch of emergency management experience, not only here, but also in New York. Will you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, Griselle, yes, with pleasure. I would like to share this with everyone's listening and also watching on the podcast or anywhere. Well, we started way back in 1992 when we joined the American Red Cross as a volunteer. So with that, in 1993, I became the chair of the emergency service volunteers in the Brooklyn chapter. So that's how it started with me, with learning, getting some skills in emergency management, in emergency preparedness and all that. And I believe that added to my qualification when I joined Miami-Dade County with the Community Relations Board as a Community Relations Assistant back in 2007.
And even now that you're in this role directing the Goodwill Ambassadors program and all of the county volunteers, you're also involved with our emergency management program.
Well, think about it. If you're running a program, you have access to now 500 volunteers, and they all are county employees. You might as well help them understand how it is to assist their community, their neighborhoods first in time of disaster. Let's say that disaster strikes now, we need to know what to do. So if you are a Goodwill ambassador, we deal with crowd every day. So if anything happens, we want to make sure that we assist and we save some lives before the rescue arrives, instead of watching the person, suffering after an injury. But if we can assist at the time, because sometimes, think about it, a direct pressure can save a life within the next 3 minutes before rescue arrives.
Right, and one of the things that you do in your involvement with the emergency management is the whole CERT program that I understand it's open to the public as well, not only to Goodwill ambassadors, but anybody who's interested in helping in a time of need, they can sign up to be CERT certified.
Well, I hope that FEMA, since there is no referral fee or any type of referral going on, and I'm very pleased to tell everybody, listen, you have some trainings for free. It's good to take advantage of that with FEMA, the Emergency Management Institute. It is available to everyone. We're talking about anyone who lives in the United States or almost everywhere, if you are an employee or a resident or you live in the country. So you have access to FEMA.gov and take as many training as you can. Educate yourself, prepare yourself to save lives, your family and everyone else in your neighborhood.
Because
so that's how I encourage them.
The classes that are available online, and they're also like webinar types, like video types, you can obtain certificates, and it's also useful in emergency situations, even if you don't work in an emergency profession.
Even if you don't work in an emergency profession, what the program does for you, let's say what the agency does, FEMA, when they give you this, I don't want to be I'm not a spokesperson for FEMA. I'm only someone who took advantage of their program and the education that they provide for us to everyone for free. They made available on their website. So what it does to me, I don't want to say to us, to everyone, but to me, what it does to me is that at first I educate myself. I understand better what is an emergency and how to communicate with agencies, with our rescuers and local authorities and everyone. And also it helps me understand how do they coordinate, in any type of incident. And those are the reasons why, I'm always suggesting everyone to go online, go to FEMA.gov to educate themselves about that. It is good. They have all type of trainings. You have training online, and also you can apply for training in-class trainings. Those are some advanced trainings for professionals. So that's why I would suggest everyone to really take advantage of that, and that's what we're doing with the Goodwill Ambassadors.
Can you talk to us about the program itself? How did it originate? How did that idea come up? Because since I started in the county, I've always heard about the Goodwill Ambassadors, but when was it created and why?
The program, Goodwill Ambassadors program, started in the year 2000, and that's when that after Miami Beach had started their Urban Beach Week, and at the time, students come from all over the country to come and participate at this great event that bring the hip hop and everyone, and think about it, a bunch of kids, like a large crowd of people coming in, and then the city lost control over everything. So they made about like 1,000 or 2,000 arrests, and the community started to look at this as a big issue, and it was even considered as a racial issue. So to reduce the type of tension in the Community Relations Board, under the leadership at that time of Dr. Larry Cap, they considered bringing a program, to address that situation when there's a large crowd, because when you see that, we needed to have like a first line of defense, first to reduce the number of arrests, because that can affect our leadership later.
You mean like instead of the residents being arrested by the police, someone should go over there and say, look, you're doing something that you're not allowed to. If you don't stop, you're going to get arrested.
Yes. That is the type of information. We give them information. We let them know about the ordinances of the community, the county, and the city. So we let them know also where they're going to go overboard. Don't drink too much. Don't bring your glass bottle outside. You may get arrested based off the ordinance. Think about your boombox. If you're making too much noise, hey, you may get cited for noise control, too much noise in the streets and all that, disturbing other people's peace. So, to remind them also to be respectful to each other.
Do you remember when that changed? About the noise control, because I remember in high school you mentioned boombox. I remember us going to Miami Beach and doing that, but I thought it was legal.
Well, you know what? It may be legal somewhere, but when you go to a residential, you turn on your boombox, to the max. Think about the residents. They come home after work hours. They don't need to be disturbed. They need to rest, to start the next day fresh. So the boombox is not a great, how you say that, contribution, to their resting. So that's why, you have to come out with it.
And Miami Beach is one of those municipalities who are very strict enforcing their ordinances. And you continue on every Memorial Weekend, you continue to be involved with Miami Beach. Is that so?
Well, yes. Well, you know what? What I think about it, strict is an appropriate word, and also they are very cultural. I think they do work with anyone. When you come, that's why they agreed to have the Goodwill ambassadors there to make sure that they don't have to arrest everybody. If you don't know about it, we inform you. They let you know that you are doing something that is not acceptable, to stop it or reduce it. And then, I think that it is good. Not only they are strict, but also they are lenient somewhere.
Yes, you mentioned crowd control. How do you train someone who wants to be a Goodwill ambassador on crowd control?
Well, in order to become a Goodwill ambassador, let's say this first. In order to become a Goodwill ambassador, you have to first you have to be a county employee. We don't have access. We do not accept at this time any resident to become a Goodwill ambassador because it involves liability and all that. So a county employee is someone who's already trained in customer service, because it is part of the Goodwill ambassadors. You need to be a good customer service representative, And now we give you some training in crowd control. Since you are going to interact with a large group of people, they come with like different set of mind. They don't know why they are there. So what we do with them, we train our Goodwill ambassadors in crowd control to understand the type of crowds that they are, and also how to deal with those crowds, how to interact with them. If there's information that you need to give them, you guide them, and then that's how we do. We also provide, we spoke about the emergency preparedness. So because we work with crowd, they also need to understand the emergency to be able to respond to an incident. And with that, we've also added a type of mediation, because sometimes you find yourself trying to in conflict resolution. You're dealing with conflict resolution. You need to know how to interact with other people. The two adversaries, two people who have different minds. I want to go left and you want to go right. And you are standing in front of me. So I need to go behind you and you need to go behind me. So we need to find a way. You cannot walk over me, so we need to find a way to agree who's going to go left or who's going to go left.
How do you handle somebody who may have enough to drink? They're had too many beers and they're just partying, having a good time. How do you tell them? How do you approach them?
There are many ways. To my understanding, there are many ways to approach someone who have had enough, of drink. It depends. I'm not an expert at it. In interacting with people who are kind of trying to.
The idea is for them not to get arrested. So the Goodwill ambassadors, they are distinctive. They wear a different color shirt.
Color shirts. They see us. When people see the color, and we work as a team, with a team of 5 or 10. When we approach someone, you see a group of people approaching you, not one person. We never work alone. And when we meet people, if there is a conflict, we deal with the issue first. So
and you work 24-hour shifts.
I work a 20-hour shift when we are deployed on Miami Beach.
No, but I'm saying Goodwill ambassadors overall.
Yes.
You have people from 12 to 8.
When we are deployed on Miami Beach, we have two shifts. Both shifts are about 10 hours that would overlap. So usually we only have 4 hours extra. To rest, and our Goodwill ambassadors to work 10 hours a shift. But we are around the clock with Miami Beach anytime they need us. Let's say they shut down our operations at 2, and at 5 a.m. they need to have a briefing. So we stand up and go to the briefing as coordinators.
Whatever you're doing, it's working, because it's everything I've read is that the Goodwill ambassadors is a national model, and that you have other states and other cities copying after the Goodwill Ambassadors program. Yes,
that was since 2002. Goodwill Ambassadors received an award for the most innovative program in the nation with NACO, the National Association of Counties, and it was a very. We were grateful for this, and that also gave us encouraged us to do better and more. Think about it. Since then, we've been working, and until this year, we were the only program as such that exists in the nation. So we gladly share our information with the Department of Justice sometimes, the Community Relations Service of the Department of Justice, and they introduce that same idea to other municipalities, other counties, I believe, and they have created, other models of based on the Goodwill ambassadors.
Of civilians helping the police departments.
I don't know if they're doing that civilians helping the police departments, but I don't have that information from them. But they are creating that. I think somewhere in Texas they have one city or county in Texas has a similar program at this time. And we had the city of Miami. City of Miami had a Goodwill ambassadors program. And I remember that I used to participate or work with them during March protest. We used to have a huge crowd coming out for immigration protest and rallies. So Goodwill ambassadors were dispatched, and there were City of Miami Goodwill ambassadors going out there, and we used to assist them. And
So
that's
do
what
they
we
still
have.
have that program?
City of Miami still have the program on paper, but they don't have a staff on board with for their Goodwill ambassadors. But anytime your municipality needs service, they can always make a request to Miami-Dade County, the executive office of Miami-Dade County, and then we will gladly come out and assist them.
And we have, I believe, like 27,000 employees. And how many Goodwill ambassadors do you have now?
We have 27,000 employees. Not all of them can actually participate. At this time, we are counting over 300. We had 200, but now we have over 300 active Goodwill ambassadors with the county. And all of them are taking advantage of the trainings with FEMA, like the CERT program, the Community Emergency Response Team. So when you do that, it's I think it's a good way of educating yourself, as I said. Prepare yourself and prepare also for
And
anything.
that's a training that is about 3 days at the Office of Emergency Management in Doral.
Yes, we say 3 days because the first segment of the training is online. You take the IS 317, it's an introduction to CERT, and it is about like 6 hours. Then you apply for an in-class training at the Office of Emergency Management, whenever they are offering it, or at a municipality, because the cities also offer the same training, the same program to everyone.
And once again, the CERT program is a program that it's open to everybody that wants to be qualified, and it's called Community Emergency Response Team.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And I have a whole list over here. We talked about Miami Beach.
Yeah.
We talked about Miami, but I see that you also participate in the MLK Parade, the Art and Sea Festival, Calle Ocho, Jazz in the Gardens, Liberty Square Resource Fair, CRB Parents Forum, Miami Broward Carnival, Wings Over Homestead, Miami Riverwalk, and so on. International Conference of Mayors.
Yes.
So that's really crowd control. That's really not.
Not only crowd control, we do almost everything. For the Conference of Mayors, the Inter-American Conference of Mayors, we go there to assist FIU every year in the month of June to when they welcome mayors coming from all over Latin America and the Caribbean, and doing the conference. It's a week conference, 4 days conferences. So we assist them from informing registration and do registration and forming the mayors, and sometimes we help assist them with translating for someone else. Because we speak different languages. So that's the diversity of the program. And also we reflect Miami-Dade County, in its diversity. So we have good ambassadors who even speak sign language or other type of languages. So that is one thing that helps us with that. And with other the other events where we also offered, like the JCI. That was an event that came once in Miami 2 years ago. The JCI is a Junior Chamber of Commerce. We had young people coming from all over the world to Miami to participate at the conference, international conference for Chamber of Commerce conference. There we didn't have to use to provide crowd control. However, we were there to assist the organization, the organizers, into welcoming the visitors, and also show them, assist them in anything that they may need, or not with housing or hospitality and all that, but anything else that they may need to know about Miami-Dade. So we were there to assist them with that.
I see that you also participate in the cattle show that our great commissioner
Oh yes,
Javier
the
Soto
cattle show
loves.
is fun, and you know what? That is something that we would like to tell everyone. Don't you know what? Whenever the cattle show is coming in town, make an effort and go there. Take your kids, take your family, to the cattle show. It's a great event. You have cattle, the kids come to pet it, and also it's a good time also to meet with some our great people working with autism. Great people like serving the population with autism, and it's a great opportunity to become aware of that too. You can interact with them. They have a section for the kids to pet the little animals. So
Commissioner Soto was
shows.
actually explaining to me that many of these kids that have autism, they welcome sensory integration.
Yes.
And by having contact with the different animals, with the cattle and petting them, and that helps accelerate those
Yes.
needs that they have when it comes to sensory.
Yeah. So that's why it's not only that you come, you dance, you eat. You interact. If you don't talk to a neighbor, it's not my fault. But you meet so many people. You can speak whatever language that you want to speak. Interact with everyone. I always encourage everybody. You know what? You live in one community. This is Miami-Dade County. This is a great community. When you see someone, try to be less of a stranger. Say hello to that person. Say good morning, or see if the person cannot understand good morning, you say bonjour, or you can also say buenos dias. So, those things, when you see that, you see people in Miami-Dade County, you know what, it's always good to interact with them, because you never know.
Our diversity is our strength.
That's right. It is true. Our diversity is our strength.
So, talking about diversity, you also participate in the Three Kings Parade and in the MLK Parade.
Yes.
Do you do basically the same type of work in both?
When we work at the parade, we assist as marshals. We start with the parade. We begin where the parade begins, so that's where we start, and then we help control the pace of the floats. So that's how we work with during the parades. Our good ambassadors are trained, to be event marshals.
And what do you do with the Wings Over Homestead? That's the air show, right?
Yes, Wings Over Homestead comes to Miami every other year. So last year we had Wings Over Homestead, but this year we're not going to have it. Next year, I hope they come back, because it comes every other year. And that is another great event in Miami that brings, I don't know how many people that event brings to Homestead. But our service there is also to assist with crowd control. And we can see that, you have more people than buses. So we have to help everyone, jump on the bus from the
parking?
to the parking, or from the parking to the base, and from the base to the parking.
Okay.
Because you have to help them control that. You have to answer questions. I don't know how long it will take for the bus to come back. If we have to assist a person with disability, we assist that person. We have to assist a family with 5 strollers. We are there also to assist them, stock them in the back of the van or the bus, and then after that, when they get there, so we help them unload all that. So that's a great event. People need to come and assist, and make sure you bring some earplug.
Definitely.
Yes.
And how about Jazz in the Gardens?
Jazz in the Gardens in Miami Gardens every year. Every year, I think in the month of March, that's when we have it. Think about it. Jazz in the Gardens is usually like a week after Calle. So I don't know if it's usually after or a week before or after Calle, but it's always around the same. It's in the same month. We have Calle and Jazz in the Gardens. Two great events. Calle, you know what, on 8th Avenue, on 8th Street, and in Miami, where we have all the countries that represent Miami, that are represented in Miami-Dade country, we meet there. So I don't want to say Latin because we have everything, everybody. That's a great event that Kiwanis organized, and it's been going on for years. And I still remember the year that they had they tried to, I don't know if they beat the record of the largest or longest flag in the world, because they put together all the flags that they know that represent countries in Miami-Dade County. So on that, and the Jazz in the Gardens, it's fun. It's a 2-day event, so they always have to come. You can always come to Jazz in the Gardens, and you have an extra fun.
And so usually the Goodwill ambassadors that work one event, they also work the other event?
Goodwill ambassadors, we work every event.
Okay.
Anytime we're talking about the deployment now. If somebody needs, once a request is made, as I said earlier, the request is made to the executive or the mayor's office. Mayor's office will send a memo, and from that memo, Goodwill ambassadors will submit supervisor's authorization. They don't have, there's no restriction on how many events you can assist, because the events, they know how to. Well, I'm glad to see that I have some good ambassadors that work who comes every other event to assist us, but they don't really have a restriction on how many events they can participate. I believe, we have a minimum of 5 a year, because at this time we're doing 23 events in a year.
And you have one coming up.
We had one last week. Last weekend we had one, which was Smooth Jazz in Miami. That was the first annual Smooth Jazz in Miami at Zoo Miami. That was Saturday and Sunday. Next year, I believe they're coming again. Hopefully, it's not a rainy day.
Oh, because that's what happened and everybody got wet.
That's right. We got wet.
Well, that comes with the territory.
Oh yes, it comes with the territory.
So one important thing is for anybody listening or watching. So if a person is assigned to be working, they can't be working at those hours. They cannot do that. They cannot leave their place of employment to do this. What they can do is if it's after hours.
Yes. Goodwill ambassadors are county employees, and you cannot volunteer during your regular work hours. And you have to do it after work hours. That's why our events, we always choose events. We always participate at events after work hours or on Saturdays. If your schedule is on Saturday, you cannot participate. You participate the next day.
Since it's your first time here at La Mecca Radio, anything else I haven't asked you that you would like people to know about the Goodwill Ambassadors program?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me for myself, because I come here, I feel comfortable. So, Goodwill ambassadors are here to assist everyone in Miami-Dade County. An organization, a non-profit organization that will bring over 1,000 people in the community, and you realize that you will face some difficulties in managing the crowd. Always make contact with Miami-Dade County Goodwill ambassadors to see if we can assist you in managing that crowd and the area, the space that you are going to do it. And I would suggest always remember that you have your county commissioners. If you are having an event in a district, inform the county commissioners that you are going to have it, and the constituents will be participating at your events, and then surely they will assist you in getting access or how to request the Goodwill Ambassador service.
That's a very good tip.
Yes.
And it's so it's open also to municipalities. So if anybody watching for maybe Pinecrest or Ralls, someone that hasn't contacted you, that they can, and what is the best way to get in touch with Yvans?
The best way to get in touch with Yvans is by calling Yvans.
Okay.
Okay,
What
we are
number?
305-375-5730, extension 3840, or you can call 305-375-3840.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank
I
you
hope
so
they're not going to call me now.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the great service you do for the community and all of your volunteers. Hope to see you again at La Mecca Radio.
Thank you, Griselle, and thank you, La Mecca Radio, for having me.
Well, I hope our audience enjoyed today's show. As always, you can contact us at miamidade.gov/advocacy, as well as via our social media platforms, Advocacy MDC, or you may call us at 305-375-5730. I am your host, Griselle Marino. See you next time.